All right, so we got this room here. We ran all new electrical. That'll be all up to code. And so we're prepping the wall. We're going to start prepping the walls so that we can paint. Too much noise. So what I'm using here is a masonry bit. So I do this to score. Then the other way to do it is take your razor knife. This is a lot slower, so we're just doing it for that way for speed. All right, so what you're trying to do is prevent this from constantly tearing out. See, it stops it. That's pretty tight. Oh, it's right there. All this plaster has keyed through, squished. That's what it's supposed to do. That's what holds that plaster up. You got to take that out. Once you get all the plaster off, you got to get where it was keyed in. And the reason why is because when you put new plaster in, it has to have some place to go through and key. So we want to get this all prepped like this. All these cracks like this with a little V shape. You can do this with a razor knife. Here I'm doing it with a 5-in-1 tool. You want to create that V. So any plaster that's loose, it has come unkeyed from the lath. So we've got to put a new coat up there. Sheetrock mud won't do it. I could put a sheet of sheetrock up there, but if I put sheetrock up, I have to cut it to that funky shape. So instead, I'm just going to put the first coat, which is scratch coat, and we're gonna put layer of plaster in there, and then from there we're gonna use sheetrock, 20-minute easy sand, and then that's how we're gonna skim out all these walls.
Now with this stuff, if it's just popping, you put a screw up in it and push it back up.
Yeah, so they sell screws that have like these big plastic washers. Yeah. But what you got to do is drill a hole and then squirt their special adhesive caulk in there. Okay, so here's my problem, and maybe they've solved that, but you've got all that dust on there, so you can squirt the caulk all day long, but it's still not going to attach. I've not had good success with it. Yeah. There's some instances where I will do it instead of tearing that all out, but do like you were just doing. Feel for where it's soft and it's bouncy. Yeah. And so you can kind of get a gist of where to stop. So about in there, you think? Yeah. Okay, so then you just grind that out. Grind your line, And if you're wrong, well, then you can just grind a new line.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, all you're doing is scoring it, you don't have to grind all the way through.
Okay.
We're gonna pull out the big fan in a second. All right, good job. So we've taken out all the plaster that's loose, and so here's the mesh tape. We're gonna get rolls, 36-inch rolls of mesh tape and do the sealing. But in the meantime, we're gonna put plaster weld on the lath and in those areas, and then put just strips of mesh tape, and then we'll plaster weld the walls and the lath. Okay, so we've mesh taped pretty much all the cracks. You can see there's gray. We took this window out. There's so many cracks on this wall. We're getting some 3-foot wide mesh tape. It's just gonna come in one big roll, and then we'll do that whole section. And then the same thing with the ceiling. There's just so many cracks. We're just gonna use a 3-foot wide roll. And we'll just do the whole thing and skim coat the whole thing at once. So in the corners, we're not gonna put that mesh tape because in my experience, what happens is the mesh tape comes loose when you're trying to put sheetrock mud in there. So we're gonna use regular sheetrock paper tape in the corners. So Jacob's putting on the plaster well. We're just using a foam roller here, and the big thing is it kind of locks and glues the mesh tape to the wall. If we don't do this and come back in a day or two, whatever our schedule is, then that mesh tape probably will fall off. And then that really lets that sheetrock mud bond. So what you're seeing here, the blue, is probably either a dye or a pigment that was put in the last veneer coat. So this house is built in 1915, and it has not been painted in 105 years. There was 2 coats of wallpaper. You'll see like the yellow up here was wallpaper glue. They must have used a different kind of glue, but maybe it was a different dye. That could have been possible. I don't really know. 105 years this house hadn't been painted, not a coat of paint. But what we use today, latex paints, much different than what they would have used, which would have been oil-based paint. And it probably had lead in it. I tested the walls, there was no lead in the paint or any of those pigments in the walls. And the trim, that's a different story. And so we've taken that by sealing it up with a good primer.
Yeah, when do I know to refill this?
It will just not have
No steam.
no steam.
Okay.
Alright, we're gonna go check there, remember, where's the bottom?
Cover that. Should I cover that hole up? Hey.
That's it for this bucket. Do you have another bucket already?
Yep, I'll bring that up to you.
Okay. Ooh, that's a big hole there. So what we've done is we've thinned down some sheetrock mud. And he's rolling it on the ceiling. Then I'm using my skim tool. I think it's about 42 inches. And make sure you have your floor covered. This is our third coat. So we've skimmed it twice, and there's still some hollow spots. So I'm gonna shine my light. No one's ever gonna shine a light up on the ceiling like I'm doing. This is a headlamp. I don't know if you can see that. And so just looking at it, you do it like this. You're never gonna get a light on there. But so what we're doing is we're taking and skimming that out. And then once we skim that out and sand it, that's gonna look really good. It's gonna look really good. And that's the third coat. Actually, is it fourth? 5 minute, use 5 minute on top of the,
Tape.
on the tape or the mesh tape. And then we rolled on and skimmed, and then we rolled on and skimmed, and then this is the last one where the skimming, see, this is a roller marks is what that is. And then we skimmed it, so that's the low valleys. And so we're gonna fill those in now and then light sand everything and then prime this. And once we prime it, I know everything's white now, but once we prime it, it'll be a monotone of color, and any imperfections will stick out even further. So we'll get those, and then after we get those, we'll lightly prime that again, and then we're gonna put paint on. There's our first coat of primer. Well, we're only putting one coat of primer. Walls came out great. Ceiling came out great. So the whole room is primed. And what Jacob's doing right now is he's going over where you can see after you finished priming it, all the imperfections really stick out. So we're just going through and double checking it. It's looking good though. So what we do is we stick a light, and once you see the light up against the wall, you can see the imperfections. And that's what we're touching up.